Shalom. My name is Adam Wasser, and I am a proud Zionist. Recently, the Swedish Prime Minister, along with the Swedish Parliament, voted to recognize the Palestinians as a nation, meaning that there is a capital, there is a flag, there is a nation called Palestine that is amongst all nations. What does it mean to be an actual legitimate nation? It can mean, if you're accepted, a seat on the council, ambassadorship for all the countries that you have relations with, and economic help from them as a nation to a nation. But it gives you the credibility that your borders are legitimate, because that's what a nation is, really, is that it's a people that have legitimate borders. Sweden is recognizing the Palestinians as a nation of their own. So they're recognizing the 67 borders as Palestine. And truly, the Palestinians don't even recognize really the 67 borders as Palestine. They recognize all of the land of Israel as Palestine. So what does Sweden really recognize as Palestine is unclear. What is clear is that they are saying that it's only fair that Palestine should be at the same quota as Israel is as a nation. Today there are 23 Arab nations, and that doesn't include all the Muslim nations around the world. 23 Arab nations and one Jewish nation. This one Jewish nation is about the size of New Jersey, and yet it struggles constantly on a day-to-day basis to hold on to its sovereignty from people that are trying to destroy it. Arab nations, Europeans, even Americans are always trying to undermine the Jewish state in their glorious idea that one day it will be destroyed and the Jews will be thrown into the sea. Unfortunately, Sweden is the first nation to take this major step, but it is not the only nation in Europe that wants to do this, and it's not the only nation in Europe that is trying to blackmail and force Israel into a peace agreement with the Palestinians that is only in word alone. The Europeans are constantly threatening Israel, embargos and sanctions, if they don't stop settlement building, if they don't give more rights to Palestinian claims over land. The truth of the matter is that Israel is more nice and proper and gives the Palestinians more rights than many Europeans ever gave their own minorities in their own nations. Like, let's face it, the European continent that we see today with its borders is a result of World War I and World War II. And yet there are many minorities in these places that are subject to these nations only because they were so heavily persecuted that they can't really fight. So they beat them down to the point that they could not fight any longer. And now they say, oh, we are a nation of liberalism and democracy, and we are a beacon for the world to recognize as a way of the future. But in truth, Europe is one of the most war-torn regions of the world, because they fought and killed one another until they finally got, the majorities got their ways against the minorities. Let's not forget the 100-Year War against Britain and France, where Britain was always trying to conquer major parts of France, and they only gave up because they lost. You know, Germany has always been trying to conquer Europe, and France, Napoleon went all the way to Russia. And the only reason they don't have these areas is because they lost over time. Europe is a hypocrite in how it deals with Israel and the Arabs. You know, today there are over 50 to 60 million Arabs that live, Muslims, that live in the continent of Europe. These people are looked at with a grain of salt, because a lot of them want to destroy Europe. They want to make Europe Islamic, and they support terrorism. And the Europeans know that, and they are afraid of that, and they try to deal with that with a grain of salt. And it's funny, because here's Israel, wants to be friends with Europe, works with Europe, and is closer in personality to Europe than the Arabs are. And no Jew is trying to blow up, Westminster Abbey. And yet they continue to attack Israel. They continue to threaten Israel, put embargoes on Israel, to make peace with people that hate the Europeans. Like, let's face it, you think the Palestinians just don't like Jews? They don't like anybody who's not in their frame of mind. Fact of the matter is, why is this reality? Why do the Europeans are so hard on the Jews more than anybody else in the world? Well, let's face it, after 2,000 years of Jews living in Europe, they have been dealt with in a hard way. The Jews have been, when the Jews were in Spain, they were removed in 1492 because they were told, well, if you don't convert to Christianity, you have to leave, and you have to leave all your valuables behind. The Jews, some of them converted, many of them left, 500,000 left. They went to France, and France threw them out after, I think, 100 years. They threw them out, and then they let them back in, and they threw them out again. They went to England. They threw the Jews out. The Jews went there. They became business people. They made their way, and they survived. But the kings wanted money for their wars, so they looked at the Jews as a way to steal money. And the people, with their zealous Christianity, just hated the Jews just because it was somebody to hate, to put their sorrow on somebody else by killing them. Even many popes would tell the people of Europe, don't kill the Jews, don't persecute them, just let them be, they're not like us, they're shit, they're garbage, but, don't be so rough with them. But most of the people wouldn't even listen to the popes and still kill the Jews. There's been many times where cardinals would protect the Jews in Germany, and the people would still kill the cardinal to get to the Jews. Those Jews never did anything, but they were Jews, so kill them. They needed to be killed because that was their purpose in life. Jews, and as we go on, we look at the Jews were thrown out of Germany, let back in. They went to Poland. Everything was okay in Poland in the 1500s, 1600s. But then, as the Russians came in, everything changed, and Poles started hating the Jews when the Russians took over, and the Russians hated the Jews, told the Jews they could only live in a certain area of Russia and Poland. Pogroms were all over the place, where Jews would be thrown out of the land. The land would be confiscated and taken, their property would be stolen, and then they moved to another place, and it would happen all over again. The blood libel, the famous blood libel, that the Jew must be the one to be killed because they were responsible for Jesus' death. And then you have Passover, where they used Christian children for the blood for the Passover Seder. These kind of lies, these kind of propaganda were throughout Europe for 2,000 years. The Jews dealt with it until it got so bad, it got so rough that we had the Holocaust, where over 6 million Jews were killed. The Jews fled. Who was left over, obviously, to Israel and America, and that's not enough. They feel like, hey, they're not. There's only 1 million Jews left in Europe today, so let's go after where they are now, which is Israel. And it's so obvious, it's so clear that this is just basic hatred that has existed. If you really weigh the scale, the Christians have persecuted the Jews more than the Arabs have, and I'm not saying the Arabs haven't really been brutal to the Jews over the centuries. They have, but really the Christians were the worst. And now they're coming back, and yet they don't hate, but they don't like the Arabs. They don't trust them, and their conservative ways. And the Arabs hate the Christians and want to change them and do all that. But yet they come to a common cause where they both hate the Jews. So here's like a unity of, hey, we have our differences. We don't like each other, but we don't like the Jews. So let's go after them instead. Anyways, what's going on in Europe today is clearly hate and another way of bigotry. It's just using different words of intelligence, but in truth it's just the same old shit. And Israel really needs to recognize this and put its foot down and say, you want to go after us, you want to put embargoes on us, you want to hurt us and humiliate us, we can't stop you, but we can do what we need to do in our land. Israel has an army that is greater than England and France combined. It is the superpower of the Middle East and one of the superpowers of the world. It is fully capable of defending herself and doing what she needs. But if she allows herself to be put down by the Europeans and do what the Europeans want, she will only hurt herself. And that is what the undermining idea is behind the European cause, to undermine the Jews, to hurt the Jews. We cannot allow history to repeat itself. We must stand up. We must say we are not the Jews of the ghetto. We are a new people. We are the people of Moses and Joseph and Yeshua. And fight and stand up and build our land and build our settlements, and if need be, throw the Palestinians out of our land and into Arabia, because now there is a 24th nation called Palestine, and all they have on their mind is to destroy the Jewish people and kill every Jewish baby. That is not a threat. That is not me using crazy words. That is their own rhetoric, their own reality, and that is common knowledge to anyone who pays attention. God bless you all. Mashiach now, and long live Israel. Amen.